Keith Myers is here with us today. He's brought along some items from his traveling military museum. Keith, welcome.
Well, thank you.
It's good to have you here, buddy.
Well, I'm pleased to be here, and thank you for having me come.
First of all, some of the things we've got that are surrounding us here, I'd be a little curious to know how you got your hands on them.
Well, in 1984, the city of Tulsa, with some generous sponsors, decided that they were going to have the second largest observance of the 40th anniversary of Normandy D-Day. And by the way, they did have the second largest. And people saw my displays, and then they would come up and say, well, I got Dad's things, or I got my brother's things. And that's how I accumulated. And most of the articles I have are actually identified to the veteran, and that's my primary reason for the displays.
Are you looking for a permanent home?
Yes, I am. I very much am, because most of the articles I have are identified to the actual veterans, and they are my responsibility to take care of.
Well, it goes without saying that veterans never get their due. I mean, people see them and recognize them as vets, but doggone it, they just don't realize what that man or that woman has gone through to become a veteran, what they did for the country.
Right.
Being gone 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years at a time, or being a POW. It just doesn't register. So I think what you're trying to do here, what you're putting together, is critical. It's very, very important. Let's talk about some of the things that are behind us now.
Okay.
And I don't know, Brian, what you want to show first, but we could start with the Japanese flag?
The Battle of Iwo Jima, of course, the Americans won at a very high cost of life. But after it was over, the Marines are great souvenir takers. And a group of the Marines took that flag as a souvenir. Mm-hmm. And it was the 27th Regiment Marines that took that. And in the middle of the flag, in the meatball, as they called it, some Marine has drawn the drawing of the flag raising that occurred at Iwo Jima. And
you have to get in real close to see it, though, and there are names all around the red meatball.
Right. Yeah, there are 79 names, and I have researched every name, and I have a very large binder with histories of each and every one of those individuals.
So you know who's alive and who's not.
Yeah, and unfortunately they are all deceased. I talked to the last one, it was 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. He was 98.
You were scheduled to bring your display to the Circle Cinema.
Right.
And the cold snap and the snow hit, everything got canceled.
Right.
So that was going to be a big display that you didn't get to show.
Well, we actually, in the Circle Cinema being a very patriotic organization, we then had it moved to March the 5th. Mm-hmm. So I did get to show the display.
This is an intriguing display. What is that?
Okay, that is the scoreboard for the Navy ship destroyer Hazelwood. And the USS Hazelwood was involved in the Battle of Okinawa, and they were hit by 2 kamikazes airplanes. The bridge was totally destroyed. 77 men were killed, and the ship was dead in the water. And then later they got it moving, and they moved back to Mare Island, California. Well, where their scoreboard had been destroyed because it was on the side of the bridge, one of the sailors had recreated it because they wanted to show the colors, what they had done to the enemy. Well, one gentleman got the piece of canvas, rolled it up, took it home, put it in the attic of his house. He was a gentleman from Tulsa, mm-hmm. and he saw one of my displays, and he told me about it. and he presented it to me.
We have other items that you brought along, and I'm not sure, Brian, where you want to go first, but you pick it, and he's ready to talk about it. What do you see now? What are we looking at now?
Okay, that is an Eisenhower jacket that was worn by my uncle, who was in the Airborne, 82nd Airborne. He jumped into St. Mary-Glise, was wounded, and then later, after he got out of the hospital, he was reassigned to another airborne unit and was at the Battle of the Bulge.
And came home.
And came home, yes.
Pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I got to ask you a question. Your family and mine share veterans
Right.
from World War II. They're a little different than other folks, aren't they?
Yes. They have I hate to use the word club, but they have their own group.
It's a bond.
Bond, yes. And one thing I mentioned when Tom Brokaw came here to do read the book, tell about the book that he'd written,
Greatest Generation.
Greatest Generation. I personally think that's when the lock was opened and told the veterans, it's okay, we want to hear about you.
You think his book was responsible?
I do, really do.
Well, he looked over your collection, didn't he, while he was here?
Yes, yes. He even shook my hand, and one day I'm going to wash it.
This is a bomber jacket. Tell me about it.
Okay, this one was worn by a gentleman who was in the European theater and with the B-24 bomber, and they have what looks like little fish on the back. Well, their symbols are representative of bombs that were dropped against the enemy, and the bomb in the middle, there's a B, which indicates that group bombed Berlin.
So they were involved in some pretty heavy bombing.
Yes.
Well, so many of those missions, the young men that wore those jackets never came home. What about some of the uniforms that are behind us?
Okay, over there in the corner, over that way, is a uniform that was worn by a Tulsan. He was a survivor of Pearl Harbor. Mm-hmm. And he was with the 1st Division, Marine Division, and later he was at the Battle of Okinawa. And when he came home, he joined the 1st Oklahoma Highway Patrol class after the war. And he, like a lot of the buddies I met, were phenomenal people. They never bragged about what they did. They just did their job and came home. Mm-hmm. I do these programs primarily for schools, retirement centers, civic organizations, and I'm the best price in town. I'm free.
And now it's time to find it all a home.
Yes, it's time to find a home.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay, thank you.
Keep us posted.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we're all out of time. We're going to have to kick it down the road a little bit. We'll see you back here next time.